The Philosopher's Stone, an enigmatic and legendary substance, has captivated the minds of alchemists, philosophers, and mystics for centuries. Described in countless ancient texts and shrouded in mystery, it is said to possess the power to transmute base metals into gold and grant immortality through the creation of the elixir of life. But where did this concept originate, and how did it evolve over time? The earliest references to the Philosopher's Stone appear in ancient alchemical writings, though its roots can be traced back even further. One of the most influential sources of alchemical tradition is Hermes Trismegistus, the mythical figure often credited with the foundation of Western alchemy. Known as a godlike figure embodying both Hermes, the god of knowledge, and Thoth, the god of wisdom in Egyptian mythology, Hermes Trismegistus is believed to have written the Emerald Tablet, a key text in alchemy. In this text, he alludes to the idea of transmutation, the transformation of one substance into another, and the search for a substance that could bring about both material wealth and spiritual enlightenment. The Philosopher's Stone concept evolved in the context of Hellenistic and Egyptian traditions, with early references appearing in the writings of Zosimos of Panopolis around the 3rd century CE. Zosimos, an Egyptian alchemist and mystic, is often considered one of the earliest alchemists to write about the process of creating the stone. His texts describe the stone as a mystical substance that could not only turn base metals into gold, but also provide spiritual purification, symbolizing the union of the divine with the earthly. To Zosimos, the stone was not merely a physical object, but a spiritual catalyst, enabling the alchemist to achieve both immortality and divine wisdom. Throughout the Middle Ages, the Philosopher's Stone became a cornerstone of medieval alchemical traditions. Alchemists believed that by unlocking the secrets of the stone, they could not only transmute substances into gold, but also gain eternal life. The mystical and practical aspects of the stone were intertwined, creating a belief system that united the pursuit of material wealth with spiritual growth. This pursuit was not simply about materialistic gain, but was also believed to offer the alchemist a form of immortality, the ability to escape the ravages of time and death. The Arab world also played a significant role in shaping the development of alchemy, and texts from Islamic alchemists like Jabir ibn Hayyan in the 8th century CE provided a more systematic approach to the process of transmutation. His writings, filled with symbolic references to the Philosopher's Stone, described its power as something more than just a physical transformation. It was linked to the purification of the soul. The stone was, for these early thinkers, a mystical key that unlocked the understanding of the natural world and the divine order. However, it wasn't until the Renaissance in Europe that the search for the Philosopher's Stone reached its peak. Alchemists during this period, such as Paracelsus and Nicholas Flamel, became legends in their own right, believed to have uncovered the secrets of the stone. The Renaissance saw a renewed interest in ancient knowledge and the idea that human beings could achieve a higher state of being through the mastery of alchemy. The Philosopher's Stone became a symbol of ultimate human achievement, bridging the gap between the physical and spiritual realms. The Philosopher's Stone holds a central place in the practice of alchemy, a spiritual and philosophical tradition that seeks to transform not only physical substances, but also the alchemist's own soul. While the concept of the Philosopher's Stone has evolved throughout history, its primary association has always been with transmutation, the ability to turn base metals into gold, and the creation of the elixir of life. But what exactly was the stone for the alchemist, and how did it serve as a key to unlocking both material wealth and spiritual enlightenment? At its core, the Philosopher's Stone was not merely a physical object, but a symbol of spiritual evolution. The process of creating the stone was thought to mirror the inner journey of the alchemist. In the language of alchemy, this journey was called the magnum opus, or great work. The great work was the process by which an alchemist would undergo spiritual purification, ultimately transforming their own nature and becoming aligned with the divine. The creation of the Philosopher's Stone was seen as the culmination of this transformation, representing the final step in achieving a state of perfect harmony between the material world and the divine. In terms of material transformation, the Philosopher's Stone was believed to have the power to transmute base metals, such as lead and mercury, into gold. This idea stemmed from the belief that all matter was made up of the same underlying substance but existed in different states of purity. Through the mastery of alchemical processes, the philosopher could purify these metals, bringing them closer to their ideal form. Gold, being the most perfect and incorruptible of substances, was considered the ultimate goal of this transmutation, a symbol of the highest state of being, both materially and spiritually. The Philosopher's Stone's link to the elixir of life was equally important. The elixir was believed to be a powerful substance that could grant immortality by preventing the decay of the body and restoring youth. This elixir was often associated with the idea of spiritual regeneration. The notion that true immortality was not about prolonging life indefinitely, but about reaching a state of spiritual enlightenment where one was no longer subject to the limitations of time and death. The elixir of life, then, was both a physical substance and a metaphor for the soul's transformation. Through the creation of the stone and the elixir, the alchemist was thought to achieve eternal life, not in a literal sense, but in the sense of being forever in divine union. One of the most important aspects of the Philosopher's Stone in alchemical tradition is its symbolic meaning. Alchemists did not see the creation of the stone as simply a matter of chemical processes, but as a spiritual quest. The transformation of base metals into gold was a reflection of the transformation that occurred within the alchemist's own soul. The stone itself was seen as a symbol of perfection, a divine substance that could lead to the spiritual purification of the individual. In many alchemical texts, the process of creating the stone was depicted as a journey through stages of death, rebirth, and transcendence. This was not only a physical process, but also a psychological and spiritual one, aimed at achieving a higher state of consciousness. In alchemy, the Philosopher's Stone was also seen as a tool for uniting opposites. The stone symbolized the reconciliation of light and darkness, masculine and feminine, spiritual and material. The alchemist's work was often represented as the union of the sun, gold, and the moon, silver, with the Philosopher's Stone as the sacred marriage of these forces. Through this union, the alchemist was believed to achieve wholeness and balance, reflecting the harmony of the cosmos itself. The quest for immortality has been a fundamental pursuit in human history, woven deeply into the fabric of ancient myths, religious beliefs, and philosophical musings. For the alchemists, the Philosopher's Stone was not just a tool for transforming base metals into gold. It was also believed to possess the power to create the elixir of life, a substance capable of granting eternal life. But what exactly did immortality mean in the alchemical context? And did the elixir of life truly hold the power to extend life indefinitely, as many legends suggest? In alchemical texts, the elixir of life is often portrayed as a liquid, sometimes glowing, capable of restoring youth and curing all ailments. It was said to be the ultimate goal of the alchemist's great work, representing the culmination of spiritual and physical transformation. The concept of immortality in this sense was not about escaping death in the conventional material sense. Instead, it was about transcending the physical limitations of the body and reaching a state of spiritual enlightenment and divine unity. To the alchemist, immortality was not simply a matter of living forever, but about achieving eternal wisdom and harmony with the divine forces of the universe. For many ancient alchemists, the elixir of life represented the ultimate synthesis of the material and the spiritual. The process of creating the philosopher's stone, and by extension, the elixir, was viewed as a journey of self-discovery and spiritual purification. In this view, the elixir was not a mere potion or magic substance. It was an alchemical symbol for the purification of the soul and the attainment of divine knowledge. The true immortality it promised was one of spiritual transcendence, where the soul would merge with the eternal, free from the constraints of the physical world. One of the central ideas behind the elixir of life was the alchemy of the soul. For the alchemist, the body was seen as a temporary vessel, subject to the ravages of time, decay, and death. The moon, often associated with cycles and phases, symbolized the impermanence of the material world. The soul, however, was eternal. Through the process of alchemical transmutation, the soul could achieve a higher state of purity, and in doing so, it would become immune to the corruption and decay that affect the physical body. In this context, the elixir of life represented a spiritual immortality, a return to the divine, rather than an escape from physical death. Alchemists like Nicholas Flamel and Paracelsus were believed to have discovered the secrets of the elixir, and many legends sprang up around their supposed immortal lives. Nicholas Flamel, in particular, became a figure of fascination in both historical and fictional accounts. It was said that after discovering the Philosopher's Stone, Flamel and his wife Perenelle lived for several centuries, their lives sustained by the power of the elixir. However, these claims remain unverified, and the idea that the elixir could grant literal immortality is likely a myth created through the blending of alchemy and legend. What these stories likely represent is the deeper spiritual truth that alchemists believed in, the immortality of the soul through the attainment of divine wisdom and inner transformation. The elixir of life, in essence, may have been a metaphor for spiritual enlightenment. The immortality it offered was not of the body, but of the mind and spirit. The alchemist, by mastering the great work and discovering the elixir, was believed to become one with the divine and achieve eternal wisdom. In this view, immortality is not a physical state of endless life, but rather a spiritual transcendence, where the soul becomes eternally connected to the divine source and free from the confines of the material world. The Philosopher's Stone, as a symbol of both material and spiritual transformation, played a significant role in shaping the course of Western history, particularly during the medieval and Renaissance periods. While its origins can be traced back to ancient texts, it was during these times that the quest for the stone became a central focus for alchemists, mystics, and even early scientists. The stone's association with immortality, the transmutation of metals, and the elixir of life helped to bridge the worlds of alchemy and early chemistry, influencing both philosophical and scientific thought. During the Middle Ages, the search for the Philosopher's Stone was often intertwined with religious beliefs, especially within Christian Europe. Alchemists and scholars believed that by discovering the stone, they could unlock the secrets of divine wisdom and bring about spiritual salvation. The stone was viewed as a symbol of God's perfection, a tool that could allow humanity to unlock divine mysteries. For many medieval alchemists, the creation of gold was less about wealth and more about achieving perfection, a reflection of God's divine order. One of the most famous figures in medieval alchemy is Roger Bacon, a 13th century English philosopher and alchemist who was one of the first to attempt to systematize alchemical methods. Bacon is often regarded as one of the earliest proponents of the scientific method, and his work laid the foundation for what would later be known as modern chemistry. Bacon was deeply interested in the Philosopher's Stone, believing that its discovery would provide the key to not only material transformation, but also spiritual enlightenment. His writings combined both mystical and empirical approaches, illustrating the way in which alchemy was, at the time, a blend of both philosophical speculation and practical experimentation. By the time of the Renaissance, the Philosopher's Stone had taken on a new level of significance. During this period, alchemy experienced a resurgence, with prominent figures such as Paracelsus and Johann Georg Faust contributing to the myth and mystery surrounding the stone. Paracelsus, a Swiss physician and alchemist, revolutionized the practice of alchemy by integrating it into medicine. He believed that the Philosopher's Stone could not only transmute metals, but also heal the human body. He referred to the stone as a universal remedy that could cure all diseases and, in some cases, grant immortality. The legend of Faust, another key figure in Renaissance alchemy, was particularly influential. Faust, according to myth, made a pact with the devil in order to gain access to the Philosopher's Stone and acquire infinite knowledge and power. The story of Faust, immortalized by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe in the 19th century, serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of seeking ultimate knowledge and power through forbidden means. It is in this period that the mystical allure of the stone was fully realized, blending the pursuit of eternal life with the desire for unlimited knowledge. During the Renaissance, alchemy was also deeply tied to the artistic and intellectual movements of the time. Alchemists believed that understanding the Philosopher's Stone required a deep understanding of both philosophy and spirituality, and many of the era's greatest minds, including Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, were indirectly influenced by alchemical ideas. These thinkers believed that by unlocking the secrets of the stone, humanity could gain access to a higher level of understanding about the universe and its hidden laws. It was during this period that alchemy began to evolve into early chemistry, marking the beginning of the transition from mystical to scientific inquiry. One of the most famous historical figures connected to the pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone is Nicolas Flamel, a 14th century French scribe and alchemist. Flamel's name became legendary in alchemical circles after it was claimed that he had discovered the secret of the stone and lived for several centuries. While no concrete evidence exists to support these claims, Flamel's supposed immortality became a symbol of the mystical potential of alchemy. His name remains synonymous with the search for the Philosopher's Stone, particularly in modern interpretations of the stone in popular culture. The Philosopher's Stone, while often seen through the lens of alchemy and material transformation, also holds a deeply mystical significance that transcends the physical realm. To many alchemists, mystics, and spiritual seekers throughout history, the stone was not merely a tool for transmuting metals into gold or granting immortality. Instead, it represented the ultimate spiritual goal, the union of the material and the divine, the perfect synthesis of the human soul with the cosmic forces that govern the universe. In mystical traditions, the Philosopher's Stone symbolizes transformation not only of substances, but of the individual soul. It is often viewed as the key to enlightenment, a means of unlocking hidden wisdom and achieving a state of perfect spiritual purity. For the mystics who sought it, the stone represented a metaphor for personal transcendence, a pathway to divine knowledge that would bring about a profound spiritual awakening. One of the key aspects of the stone in mysticism is its connection to the concept of wholeness and completion. In many mystical traditions, the Philosopher's Stone is a symbol of unity, representing the integration of opposites, light and dark, masculine and feminine, the material and the spiritual. This idea mirrors the alchemy of the soul, where the alchemist, through the process of the great work, seeks to reconcile the dualities within themselves and achieve inner harmony. The Philosopher's Stone, in this sense, is not just a substance to be discovered, it is a spiritual state to be attained. It is a symbol of the alchemist's journey towards self-realization and divine union. In the context of mysticism, the Philosopher's Stone is also deeply connected to the concept of divine wisdom. Many spiritual traditions speak of a hidden truth or knowledge that can only be accessed through profound inner transformation. The stone is seen as a symbol of that hidden wisdom, a key that unlocks the secrets of the universe and the soul. In this way, the stone becomes a spiritual guide, leading the seeker toward a deeper understanding of the nature of existence, life, and death. Throughout the ages, the mystical significance of the Philosopher's Stone has influenced various esoteric traditions. In Hermeticism, the stone represents the divine spark within all beings, the inner fire that connects humans to the divine. Hermetic texts, such as the Emerald Tablet, often describe the process of transmutation as a means of aligning the self with the universal consciousness. The pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone is thus a spiritual quest, a journey of discovering the divine within oneself and ultimately achieving union with the divine source. In Christian mysticism, the stone takes on another layer of meaning. The Cathar tradition, for instance, viewed the Philosopher's Stone as a symbol of the soul's purification and the path to achieving a direct connection with God. For the Cathars, achieving this connection through the stone meant overcoming the material world and returning to the divine realm of light and purity. Similarly, Christian alchemists in the Renaissance saw the stone as a means of spiritual salvation, a way to purify the soul and attain divine grace. In the more modern era, the Philosopher's Stone continued to captivate the imaginations of those involved in esoteric traditions. Rosicrucianism, a mystical movement that emerged in the early 17th century, associated the stone with the transformation of the self into a state of divine illumination. For the Rosicrucians, the stone was a symbol of the alchemical process of spiritual enlightenment, a process that mirrored the inner awakening of the soul to higher truths. The pursuit of the stone was seen as a path to enlightenment, where the individual could align themselves with the divine plan of the universe. As alchemy gradually gave way to the rise of modern science, the search for the Philosopher's Stone transitioned from mysticism to practical experimentation. While the legendary stone was once believed to possess both material and spiritual power, in the world of science, it became a subject of curiosity and skepticism. Alchemists and scholars had spent centuries in pursuit of the stone, with its promises of gold transmutation and immortality. But did it truly exist in the way it was described? And if it did, could science explain how it worked? The Philosopher's Stone was, in many ways, a symbol of the alchemy to science transition. In the medieval and Renaissance periods, alchemy was a combination of philosophy, mysticism, and early scientific thought. Alchemists, such as Paracelsus, were among the first to apply systematic experimentation to chemistry and medicine, laying the groundwork for what would become modern chemistry. For these early alchemists, the stone was still very much a symbol of a perfect substance that could heal, purify, and transform. But as the scientific revolution unfolded, alchemy began to evolve into chemistry, and the once legendary Philosopher's Stone came under increasing scrutiny. The scientific method, with its emphasis on empirical evidence, contradicted the mystical nature of the stone and its supposed ability to transmute metals. Scientists began to ask fundamental questions. What would it take to change one element into another? Was it even possible to achieve immortality through a physical substance? The pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone intersected with the early development of chemistry, particularly the study of chemical reactions and metallurgy. Alchemists had long believed that the Philosopher's Stone could turn base metals, such as lead, into gold. While this idea was based on the concept of transmutation, the laws of modern chemistry would later demonstrate that the transformation of one element into another requires a change in atomic structure, something that cannot be achieved simply by adding or removing mystical ingredients. In the 19th century, Mendeleev's periodic table would solidify our understanding of the elements, showing that gold was a unique element, distinct from other metals. This realization made the idea of transmuting base metals into gold obsolete in scientific terms. While nuclear reactions can now alter the structure of atoms, leading to the transmutation of elements, these processes are not what the alchemists described. The methods for such nuclear transmutation are far beyond the scope of the traditional alchemy practiced during the Middle Ages and Renaissance. Despite the evolution of chemistry, the symbolism of the Philosopher's Stone continues to resonate in the world of modern science, albeit in a metaphorical sense. The alchemists' search for the stone, their quest to transform one substance into another, parallels the scientific exploration of matter, energy, and fundamental particles. In nuclear physics, the transmutation of elements occurs when atoms are bombarded with high-energy particles, causing them to break apart or fuse, changing their structure. Though the process is vastly different from alchemical methods, it can still be seen as a kind of modern-day transmutation, albeit on a much smaller atomic scale. The concept of immortality, as associated with the Philosopher's Stone, was another aspect that drew the interest of scientists. While the idea of physical immortality remains outside the scope of scientific possibility, modern science has made strides in understanding the aging process, genetics, and cellular regeneration. The elixir of life that the alchemists sought may have been more of a metaphor for spiritual regeneration than an actual chemical substance. However, in modern medicine, there are ongoing efforts to extend life expectancy, slow down aging, and even potentially regenerate tissues using stem cells and genetic therapy technologies that could one day transform the way we perceive life and death. Interestingly, psychology and neuroscience have also contributed to the idea of immortality, but not in the sense of physical life. The immortality the alchemists dreamed of may also be seen as a search for the eternal self, an understanding of the deeper aspects of human consciousness and identity. Modern neuroscience is exploring the nature of consciousness in the brain, attempting to unravel the mysteries of how thoughts, memories, and personal identity are formed. This research, while not offering immortality in a physical sense, could lead to a new understanding of what it means to be eternally conscious in the universe. The Philosopher's Stone has evolved over the centuries, from a mystical substance sought by alchemists to a powerful symbol of transformation, immortality, and the quest for ultimate knowledge. While its roots lie in ancient and medieval alchemy, the concept of the Philosopher's Stone has permeated modern culture, becoming a central figure in literature, film, and various mythologies. Today, it represents more than just a material object of transmutation. It has come to symbolize the eternal human pursuit of self-improvement, spiritual growth, and the unlocking of hidden wisdom. One of the most significant ways in which the Philosopher's Stone has remained relevant in contemporary culture is through its portrayal in popular literature. The most famous example of the stone in modern times is, of course, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, published as Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone in the United States. In this beloved fantasy novel, the Philosopher's Stone is depicted as a magical object that not only grants immortality, but also has the ability to create unlimited wealth. The central plot revolves around the young wizard Harry Potter's attempt to protect the stone from the evil wizard Lord Voldemort, who seeks to use its powers for his own nefarious purposes. Rowling's depiction of the Philosopher's Stone draws heavily from the traditional and mystical understandings of the object, but it also adds a modern twist by blending it with fantasy elements. The stone in Harry Potter represents both spiritual enlightenment and the pursuit of selflessness, as it is ultimately protected by the self-sacrifice of those who understand its true value. The story's theme of choosing between good and evil, and the ability of the Philosopher's Stone to help restore life or create wealth, directly reflects the ancient alchemical beliefs that the stone could bring about spiritual and material transformation. But Harry Potter is not the only work to explore the concept of the Philosopher's Stone in a modern context. The stone has appeared in numerous works of literature, ranging from science fiction to esoteric writings. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, for instance, explores the symbolic meaning of the stone through the journey of its protagonist, Santiago, who seeks the Philosopher's Stone as part of his quest to find spiritual fulfillment. Coelho's interpretation of the stone is not about achieving physical immortality or wealth, but about finding the true meaning of life and inner peace. The Philosopher's Stone has also been featured in films, television series, and comic books, where it continues to capture the imagination of audiences around the world. Films such as The Ninth Gate, 1999, starring Johnny Depp, delve into the pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone from a mystery thriller perspective, blending alchemical lore with the idea of ancient conspiracies and secret societies. In cinematic representations, the stone is often tied to power, immortality, and the mysteries of the occult, continuing the alchemical tradition of symbolizing the union of opposites, life and death, light and darkness, material and spiritual. In the realm of mythology and popular beliefs, the Philosopher's Stone is often associated with ancient knowledge and the search for ultimate truth. In modern esotericism, it is seen as a spiritual key, a symbol of self-actualization and the personal quest for enlightenment. Its ongoing presence in New Age spiritual movements shows that, while the material quest for the stone may have faded, the symbolism of transmutation and transformation remains powerful in the collective consciousness. The idea of the Philosopher's Stone as a spiritual rather than material object has resonated deeply in the modern era, with individuals and groups using it as a metaphor for the ongoing transformation of the soul. The Philosopher's Stone, for centuries, has been the subject of profound intrigue, sparking the imaginations of alchemists, mystics, philosophers, and scientists alike. It promises the transmutation of base metals into gold, the creation of the elixir of life, and the gift of immortality have made it a symbol of transformation, both in the material and spiritual realms. But after centuries of pursuit, the question remains: did the Philosopher's Stone truly grant immortality, or was it merely a metaphor for something deeper? In exploring the origins of the Philosopher's Stone, we have uncovered a complex narrative that bridges the gap between alchemy, mysticism, and early science. The search for the stone was not only an intellectual quest, but a spiritual journey, a journey that sought to merge the material world with the divine, to transform the base into the pure, and to unlock the hidden wisdom of the universe. For alchemists like Nicholas Flamel, Paracelsus, and Roger Bacon, the stone represented more than just a mystical object. It symbolized the pursuit of higher knowledge and spiritual purity. It was never simply about turning lead into gold. It was about personal transformation, transcending the human condition, and becoming aligned with the divine forces of the cosmos. The elixir of life, tied to the stone, was not just a substance to extend physical life, but a symbol of spiritual immortality, the immortality of the soul, not the body. As we examined the scientific perspective, we found that while alchemy gave birth to modern chemistry, the philosopher's stone remains, in many ways, a symbol, a representation of the human desire for transcendence and the uncovering of hidden knowledge. The dream of turning lead into gold and achieving immortality through a magical substance has faded, but the symbolism of the stone has continued to resonate, inspiring thinkers and seekers across the world. In modern popular culture, the philosopher's stone has taken on a new life, not as a literal object, but as a metaphor for transformation and spiritual awakening. Works like Harry Potter and the Alchemist have brought the idea of the stone into the collective consciousness, demonstrating that the true magic lies in the process of personal growth and the quest for self-understanding. Whether viewed through the lens of mysticism, alchemy, or fiction, the philosopher's stone remains a powerful symbol of the journey towards self-actualization and the unveiling of eternal truths. So, what was the truth behind the philosopher's stone? The answer, perhaps, is that the stone was never a literal object to be found, but a symbol of the endless human pursuit to transcend the material world, to transform the self, and to unlock the divine potential within. It is a symbol of the alchemical process that continues to unfold not only in laboratories and ancient manuscripts, but in the hearts and minds of those who seek to understand the deeper mysteries of existence. The philosopher's stone may not have granted immortality in the way that ancient alchemists imagined, but its legacy persists as a metaphor for transformation, reminding us that the true quest is not for external treasures, but for the discovery of the divine wisdom hidden within us all.